Los Angeles in the early 1990s was a city balancing on a tightrope. It was booming with culture, commerce, and creativity. But beneath the surface, many communities were strained by economic hardship, over-policing, and a growing distrust in the justice system. The tensions weren't always visible, but they were real. And in March of 1991, a tragic killing in south-central Los Angeles exposed just how fragile that balance was. 15-year-old Latasha Harlins was shot in the back of the head by a convenience store owner during a brief and fatal confrontation over a bottle of orange juice. The incident and the legal decision that followed would become a defining moment in the conversation about race, justice, and accountability in the city. The woman who shot Latasha was Soon Ja Do, a 51-year-old Korean immigrant and shopkeeper. The fatal incident took place inside Empire Liquor, the family-owned store she operated with her husband. Surveillance footage captured the entire event. Do accused Latasha of attempting to steal, grabbed her by the sweater, and struck her in the face. Latasha fought back, placed the juice on the counter, and turned to leave. As she walked away, Do retrieved a handgun from under the counter and shot Latasha in the back of the head. The entire encounter lasted no more than a few seconds. Do later claimed she believed Latasha was reaching for a weapon, but no weapon was ever found. Soon, Ja Do was arrested and charged with voluntary manslaughter, a conviction that in California carries a maximum sentence of up to 16 years in prison. The case was assigned to Judge Joyce Carlin, a relatively new Los Angeles County Superior Court judge at the time. The jury found Do guilty, and the conviction alone was seen by many as a rare instance of the justice system holding a shopkeeper accountable for deadly force. But when Carlin handed down Do's sentence, the tone of the conversation changed completely. Instead of prison time, Do received a suspended 5-year sentence, 400 hours of community service, and a $500 fine. She would serve no jail time. The ruling was met with disbelief and outrage. Many in the public, particularly in South Los Angeles, viewed the sentence as an affront, not only to Latasha's family but to the idea of equal justice. The disparity between the severity of the crime and the leniency of the punishment struck a nerve. Prominent figures, including District Attorney Ira Reiner, publicly criticized the decision, arguing that it sent the wrong message about the value of Black lives in the eyes of the justice system. Civil rights leaders and community activists launched protests and petitions, including calls to remove Judge Carlin from the bench. The sentiment wasn't that Do should have been punished out of vengeance. It was that the sentence failed to reflect the weight of a child's life lost. Judge Carlin later explained her reasoning in court, stating that she believed Do had acted in fear and that the case was a tragedy, not a crime of hate. In her view, Do was not a danger to society and did not deserve to go to prison. But to many, that explanation ignored the fact that Latasha Harlins had done nothing to warrant deadly force. She was not carrying a weapon, and she was walking away when she was shot. The judge's remarks, which included a call for mercy and understanding for Do, were seen by some as showing more empathy for the shooter than the victim. Critics argued that the sentence reinforced a long-standing perception that when victims are Black, the justice system exercises more leniency for defendants. The case also laid bare complex tensions between Black and Korean communities in Los Angeles. The 1980s and early 90s saw a rise in Korean-owned stores in predominantly Black neighborhoods, particularly in South Central. While many shopkeepers provided valuable services, communication barriers, cultural misunderstandings, and mutual suspicion often created strain. The death of Latasha Harlins and Do's sentence poured gasoline on those smoldering tensions. For many Black Angelenos, it felt like their lives were treated as disposable. For many Korean store owners, the backlash left them feeling vulnerable and misunderstood. The city's racial and economic fault lines deepened. Although Judge Carlin faced protests, public backlash, and organized efforts to unseat her, she was re-elected in 1992 and served until her retirement in 1997. Her supporters argued that she had made a difficult but legally sound decision, and that judicial independence should not be swayed by public opinion. Others saw her re-election as a reflection of how distant courtroom decisions could feel from the communities they affect. Carlin eventually left the bench and served as a city council member in Manhattan Beach, but the legacy of her ruling followed her, and the city, long after. LaTosha Harlins' name resurfaced just over a year later during the 1992 Los Angeles uprising, which followed the acquittal of LAPD officers in the beating of Rodney King. Protesters repeatedly cited LaTosha's killing and Due's lack of punishment as part of their anger. Businesses were looted, buildings were burned, and lives were lost in a citywide reckoning with injustice. Although Due's store had already closed by then, similar Korean-owned stores became targets during the riots, highlighting the unresolved pain from the case. In the minds of many, LaTosha's death and Due's light sentence had become a symbol of everything broken in the system. In the years since, LaTosha's story has slowly been recentered in the broader narrative of LA's racial history. Documentaries, books, and murals have worked to ensure her memory isn't forgotten. The orange juice bottle she never stole has become symbolic, an everyday object that came to represent justice denied. Due, who moved away from Los Angeles and largely disappeared from public view, never served time for LaTosha's death, but the case remains one of the most important and painful reminders of what happens when justice appears to be unequally applied. Los Angeles did not create this injustice alone, but it was the city where the pain was felt loudest, and the courtroom that made the decision stood just a few miles from the neighborhood where a 15-year-old girl had tried to buy a drink on a Saturday morning and never made it home.